Hi! You must be the student looking for the information on Roanoke, aren't you? Come on in, come on in. Just shut the door behind you, will you please? And we'll start following my room tomorrow. And just shut the door behind you, please, would you? Just so we can have some quiet. So, you don't know about anything about Roanoke, do you? I mean, why are you even looking for information about Roanoke? This must be for a project, isn't it? I figured as much. Well, I'll be happy to tell you. So, here's the story about the mystery of the lost colony of Roanoke. Enjoy. The original mission of the English, when they were finding new land, was not to start a new colony, but to find land that would be useful in the long run. They eventually discovered an island that would be known as Roanoke, and many expeditions were sent there to observe the land. But when Captain Ferdinand arrived on the island, he abandoned 15 of his men and forbid them to return to the vessel. Eventually, the stranded men built a fort out of what they could. It wasn't until a year later that John White, another English explorer, would come to check on the men and discover that almost all of them were killed and everything was destroyed. So no one knew what happened to those men. Too bad for the chap John White. He could have been more famous. Even though there was something definitely strange going on, the colonists still made the best of the situation and started rebuilding and establishing the colony of Roanoke, although things didn't go so well. It was too late in the year to grow crops when they arrived, and not only that, but they had a limited amount of supplies because it was being used in the current war against the Spanish. At the time, the English were fighting a war against the Spanish, and it's because that it became a top priority and the people on Roanoke were ignored. It was because of the loss of supplies that the English were forced to ask help from the Indians. At first, they had a good relationship and were able to get enough supplies for the winter, but then the tribe leader died, and arguments began between the Indians and the English, and they started attacking one another. And because the Indians were attacking, no one felt safe on the island of Roanoke. John White was the governor of the colony of Roanoke, so he dealt with every problem, and he had to go to England to report on the status. Unfortunately, after he reported to the Queen, she wouldn't let him go back because all the ships and vessels were being used in the war against the Spanish. He would spend the next few years trying to get back, but to no avail. But when he finally did find a ship, he faced so many storms, and so did Roanoke, which depleted their supplies even further. It just made their situation at Roanoke worse. The fact that they had no supplies, the Indians were attacking, no one knew where they were, and and also John White was gone. They had no one to protect them. And it's because of that. After a long journey, John White finally arrived at the colony of Roanoke, and he couldn't believe what he saw. The colony was a complete mess. Everything was destroyed, and there was no one to be found. There was nothing left in the colony except a message that was carved in a tree that read, Croatoan. The message was the only clue that could be found. But John White did say that if something had happened to them, then they should leave a cross. But he didn't see one anywhere, which John White thought that meant that maybe they had left to Croatoan Island, an island about 50 miles away from Roanoke. He was going to go there, but the storm prevented him from doing so, so he just gave up and left. When Jamestown became a colony, one of their first initiatives was to search for the colonists, but finding gold and silver was more important to them, and Roanoke once again became a second priority. Oh, those Brits. The mystery of the lost colony of Roanoke is one that no one has been able to solve. Although there are some things that people have done to try and figure it out. Some people have tried to use DNA and family backgrounds, or try to figure out why there were some Indians in America speaking Welsh because people in Roanoke spoke Welsh, or there was a gold ring at the Crows' home capital, and the journey of the ring might prove to have some answers. But no one has ever figured it out, and maybe the mystery of Roanoke would probably stay a mystery forever. I've told you really there is to know about the story of Roanoke. I mean, it is a mystery after all, and no one has ever been yet able to solve it. But I still hope I provided you with enough information for your project. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.